132, and since falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, I've had so many manifestations, and I haven't talked about them in a while. So I just wanted to run down the list because I was looking for something today, and I had written down as an idea for a video. I was just keeping track of all the manifestations I've had, and since I'm becoming the new person and just changing all the time, I even forget like how much I've changed. And so I felt it would be cool to share all of these manifestations that I've had since April 3rd. So you're talking about a little more than 5 months. So number one was allergies. I've had allergies my whole entire life. Uh, since for as long as I can remember, since I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, my daughter's age. And every single year in the springtime and in the fall, I'd get headaches. I'd have my nose running. I'd be just, miserable all day. Okay. And I've taken allergy medications before. I've taken all kinds of stuff that would help. It would take care of like one issue, like the runny nose, but at the same time it would make me like groggy or sleepy or something like that. So I just dealt with the seasonal allergies. And springtime came and went, summer came and went, fall's here, no allergies. All right, so I can put a check mark there as a manifestation. Before falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, allergies my entire life. Now I have no allergies. Is there anybody out there who has allergies, who doesn't want to have allergies? All right, this is how you do it. You fall asleep in the wish fulfilled. Next, spicy foods. I've talked about this before. That's the first time I talked about allergies, by the way. But spicy foods I've talked about before. My favorite thing on the planet to eat. Spicy foods, hot sausage, spicy anything. I couldn't eat spicy foods anymore. Over the last like 3 years, something happened. My body changed. I had to stay away from spicy foods. I started falling asleep in the wish fulfilled. Now I can eat spicy foods again, just magically. Okay. Next, this arm I've talked about a bunch of times. I couldn't lift this arm. I heard it last August. Okay, so April, that was like 8 months of just constant pain to the point where I couldn't even do shoulder exercises. I'm a personal trainer. I'd been personal training for the last 10 to 15 years, and I couldn't really work out the way I wanted to because of this issue. And I didn't want to like get surgery or anything like that. I just kind of like dealt with it and was hoping that it would go away. And it didn't. It was still on April 3rd, it was still keeping me up at night if I would turn on it the wrong way. I started falling asleep in the wish fulfilled. Now all of a sudden, not only, and this happened within the first couple of weeks, not only can I raise my arm, but I do all kinds of overhead shoulder exercises. It's basically 100%. All right, so there you go with that. Social anxiety. All right, I've talked about that before. Like I was just like the most uncomfortable in social situations. Anytime I would have to have small talk or large talk or tell a story or talk with anybody when we're just talking. Like I can hold a conversation if we're sitting there watching a football game or playing like beer pong or something like that. But when it just comes down to just talking with people and mingling, I was never able to do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so I got anxious when I knew those kinds of situations were coming up. And I've talked about I would have those, since that's who I was, and I was seeing myself as uncomfortable and something I didn't want to do in those situations. I just created it over and over and over. And so since falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, not only am I able to be in those kinds of situations now, I'm just confident. I'm just like, whatever, dude. Like, and it's fun. I actually look forward to it now. All right. So I flipped that. That has flipped on its head from somebody who didn't want anything to do with people, who is the guy, as I've said before, I'm out there hugging people, wanting to hear about people and their day and their life and catching up. It's insane. All right. But this is the person I'm becoming. That's the person that I want to be. I want to be that social person. You might not want to be that way, but maybe you're not social and you want to be social. And if that is the case, this is how you do it. That's who I was for the last almost 30 years since I was a teenager. Before that I was social, but I don't know what happened, but somewhere in my teenage years I just became like antisocial. So it's been a long time, and this is a new experience for me, but it's who it feels like me, because it's who I'm imagining myself to be every night when I fall asleep. So when I wake up and I have to be that person, it's like that's who I am now. All right. So financial situation, financial, that whole thing I've talked about plenty of times on here, where we were financially in April compared to where we are now. Okay. I was behind on all bills. We had debt all over the place. You couldn't see out from under the mountain of debt or the mountain of bills that were late. And now, debt's pretty much gone, aside from the debt that we still choose to have because of, how it affects my credit or our credit. And, there's just some debt that you want to have so your credit score is up there. But, as far as bills, everything's current. We're actually ahead on all kinds of bills. And by the way, moving into the next thing, I talked about credit. Okay, my credit was always poor or fair my whole entire life, poor or fair. The highest it had ever been was 630 before starting to fall asleep in the wish fulfilled. And when I started falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, it was like closer to 6. Now, across the board, my credit is in the 700s, and in a couple places it's closer to 750. It's right around 750, which is very good. So it's gone from poor, average to very good. And we all know how important credit is. My whole life, okay? My whole life, it had been poor or average. And as I've said before, I had money before where I had the opportunity to do those kinds of things, but the state of consciousness that I was in would not allow me to make those kinds of good decisions, which is why I bring up the lottery a lot of times. Like, if you win the lottery, you're still going to be in that state of consciousness as the person who looks at finances the way I used to look at them and the way my wife used to look at them. It's a state of consciousness. All right. So that has changed. And so your financial situation changes, your credit situation changes. And now we've gone from, as I've said on here, one beat up old car, dirty car. We were riding around. It's like now 2 Teslas in our driveway. So that has changed. And these are all major, major manifestations. It's an absolute, like, if you're watching HGTV and the flipper flop and they take these trash houses and they renovate them, and then all of a sudden it doesn't even look like the same house. That's what's happened here. That's totally what's happened. My whole life, it was an absolute gut job pulling out the weeds. Just think of yourself as a garden. You have to pull out the weeds And the first couple months, falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, when you want to become a new person, you're going to have to pull out. The subconscious has to pull out those weeds, all of those bad habits, all of those things that you were used to in that state of consciousness. And then once you're able to do that, and you have a fresh dirt and a blank canvas there, now all of a sudden you can start planting new flowers. And that's what's happening. My whole life has flipped upside down. And you're talking about depression on April 3rd. That's where I was, in depression, where I didn't even want to be here anymore. Now I'm happier than ever. I haven't even gotten into relationships. Relationships across the board have changed because I changed. Again, it's not the people that are changing. Nothing in my outside world is changing. I'm changing. And so all of this is now changing. And so one of the biggest revelations that I've had, the game changer, is realizing that we don't get what we want. We get who we are. And so that's why it's so important to fall asleep in the wish fulfilled, thinking about and feeling yourself as if you already are that person. Because when you're able to do that over and over and over again, and then during the day, asking yourself those questions and just constantly like focusing and pretending and acting as if you already are that person, like it's already done. Creation is finished. It's already done. What do you want? You already did it. It's just feeling yourself into that now. All right, so I wanted to share that because I haven't talked about it in a while. And, that revelation, like sometimes we forget, and we get so caught up in the techniques and having to do things. And it's like, it's just so simple. Again, I always come back to the simplicity of it. I have to, because it's so easy to get caught up. So if I'm just constantly coming back, and what I talked about yesterday, like that old person creeps back in. And that's why I wanted to remind myself and remind everybody here how much has changed. Because if you don't remind yourself of that, if you don't sometimes look at the progress you've made, it will feel like nothing is happening. It will feel like sometimes that you're at a standstill. So if you keep a list, which is what I'm doing now, just keeping a list of the manifestations of the changes that have happened since you started falling asleep in the wish fulfilled. And when you have those moments of doubt, or it doesn't feel like things are really happening as quickly as they once were, you just do what I just did and look at this and be like, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, this is definitely working. I'm not going to get caught up in that doubt or that person trying to come in and tell me that things aren't happening, because it's right here in black and white. All right, so the Lions Den. All 6 people checked in again. Brent, Kate, Shadow Flare, Lee Hodges, Nora, and Thankful. They're all falling asleep in the wish fulfilled. They've had stories too, many stories so far about how things are changing in their world, and I am looking forward to hearing more. Okay, the smallest changes, you guys, anybody in the Lions Den, anything, any kind of win. I want to go, I've mentioned this before. No matter how small the win is, or no matter how small you think the progress is, or whatever you're talking about is, when you stack those, and again, it's focusing on what you want, giving your attention to what you want. Do you want more wins? then you got to focus on the small wins. You don't just shove aside the small wins and then, and then only clap for the big wins. You got to clap for the small wins. And when you clap for the small wins and you notice your small wins, which is what I've been doing this whole time, making videos, then all of a sudden, what does your subconscious do? What are you focused on? It's going to give you more and more and more, and that's when they get bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, so that's going to be it for today. Day 132 in the books. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this helped. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy your night, day 133 tomorrow.